myself. Here we go. Okay, now, and now it's recording. Okay, let me see if you're in there. I'm only in there by myself. Okay, hold on. So if I exit full screen, right? Oh, 841-123-741. All right, thank you. And it's recording. All right, thanks.
One second. Can you hear me? Is that good, the audio?
Can you hear me? I can see you. Good
Yep.
morning.
Good morning.
So I can
edit that in the
I
beginning.
can't hear you.
You can't hear
Is it
me?
me?
Do you have my audio turned off?
Did it? I am so sorry. I'm learning.
That's okay. That is all right. Hey, I've had my share of recording snafus. So, hey, I'm not even one to even judge, okay?
Well, this is my first kind of a live, like a Zoom one. So I'm excited to be doing it with you this morning. So I'd like to just welcome LaChelle Adkins and just thank you for coming on and joining me this morning and to offer your time and your heart to Hope and Healing Homes and our organization. So I am thrilled to be having a cup of tea with you this morning.
Yes, I have my tea here.
You get your tea, all right? And just chatting. So why don't we open up with, if you just want to share a little bit about who you are and kind of what your story is, your journey.
Awesome. Okay. Well, I just want to thank you again for giving me the opportunity to share. You and I met through groups on Facebook. So I am just a fan of meeting new people. But I am LaChelle Adkins, also known as America's SuperMom. My husband and I have 15 children together. And it has been quite a journey. So I was raised an only child, and my story that really that I talk about all the time is just being able to empower myself as a woman. I struggled with depression and anxiety to the point of being hospitalized 3 times. And it took me 3 times to finally get it right. So now I share with other women, what some of the triggers are to depression, how to cope with some of the things that are a lot of times out of our control so that they can be the best version of themselves and live a more fulfilled life.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really amazing. I know every time I've talked to you, I felt inspired by your story and your journey. And I always look at you as being so brave, like how you jumped out on social media and just started doing all of these daily videos. So I'm also taking my cues.
Awesome.
Cues. See, that's what is so beautiful about this is like you can get strength from sharing somebody else's story, but also kind of seeing the steps that they take to move forward.
Absolutely.
And so, as I'm thinking about the families that we are trying to connect with, and I just have a heart for families that are struggling and stressed on a day-to-day basis. And whether it's, we don't have enough income or we're struggling to put food on the table, or it's how do you do this thing called life together when you've got kids going in one direction and relationships and just all the things that it needs to happen to make you have a peaceful, healthy home and a healthy family. How do you do that on a day-to-day basis? So I'd love to glean some of your wisdom, as America's Supermom and in a household of 15, like just how do you do this? How do you make this work?
Well, the first thing is prayer,
Okay.
okay? Because I'm only one person, and we are kind of like in my last hospitalization was 2016.
Mm,
So we are still on a journey of healing. One of the things I tell people is that for so long I was functionally depressed. So I'm doing everything on the outside. People are like, oh, they just look like they have it all together.
mm,
And inside, I'm a basket case. And so, needless to say, I was, when you're in depression, the only person usually, at least in my case, I saw was myself. I'm a victim. I'm doing all this stuff and nobody cares about me and all this. And it took me a while to understand that my children were victims,
mm,
because each of those hospitalizations, they're used to their mom being here doing everything. And I was just uprooted out of their lives for 5 to 7 days on 3 different occasions. And they may have been different ages, not knowing what's going on. So we still were on a journey of recognizing that not only was I a victim, but they were too.
mm,
And so just building up really organically, that level of trust because I'm not saying that they don't trust me, but it's just like they don't really know what to tell me because or
mm,
is this going to send her off on the edge or whatever. And so now I'm conscious of that. And so I just let them lead me based on what it is they feel comfortable with and not push and recognize that it's just going to take time. It's a healing process and it comes in phases and waves and things like that. So, just on a daily basis, I think it's important to recognize that you're not an island.
mm,
So, you have to collaborate with people, you have to have a system and a support that is going to help you during these difficult times. So, one of the things that helped me thrive as a coach was the ability to somewhat compartmentalize my life. So it's like, I was feeling like, oh, I'm a new person, I'm reformed, I figured out what my triggers are. But then I'm still coming home to the same family, the
mm.
same
Yes,
house,
yes.
same car, same circumstances.
Mm,
So I had to realize because after hospitalization 1 and 2, that had an impact on how I, stumbled through this depression to the point that it was just a band-aid that I was putting on it before and not really fixing it. So for me, I had to get that support system so that I could dive into everything that I needed to continue to grow so that I can have empathy and compassion on my family for whenever it was their time to kind of have a revelation or wake up or decide that they're going to do something different, I was okay with that.
okay.
So that was one of the things that I had to do in order to keep myself growing, but not be nagging them like, hey, when are you going to, stop doing this and stop doing that? So one of the things I told my son, because I have a son who is 25 and he's been on this journey of healthy eating probably since he was 19.
Mm,
So when he started, he was not eating meat, cutting back on sugars, not drinking milk, and all this other stuff. And so um, he was just really gung ho about it, telling us, hey, don't eat that stuff. It's not good for you. And so I said, look, it took you 19 years to realize that you wanted to eat differently. So in my case, it was 46. I was 46 and I realized I've been doing this, not to my benefit. What
mm,
I've been doing hadn't been serving me. Okay. So I can't expect something that took me 45, 46 years to learn
sure.
that they're going to learn in 2 days or
Exactly.
2 weeks or a year. So
Exactly.
that's kind of how I keep things in perspective.
Wow. So let me poke
Mhm.
a little bit into, I love what you said about not being an island. And I think that's something that a lot of people can relate to. You do feel like very much like you're the only one. Whatever it is that you're going through, you feel very
Mhm.
much alone in that. So
Mhm.
you recognize the need for a support system. How did you go about practically putting that support system in place? Like, who did you go to? I mean, first of all, you have to get over yourself, right? To be able
Right.
to ask for help. And then you have
Absolutely.
to have resources to go to. So how did
Right.
you walk your way through that?
Well, one thing was I did have a coach. Okay. So
Okay.
I had a business coach that kind of helped me separate the whole mindset of what I was doing with my business. And then I just organically created a network of people that were like minded.
Mm,
So it was very therapeutic because at this time I was starting a lot with these Facebook Lives and everything. I was positioning myself on a daily basis to be out of my comfort zone and get more comfortable admitting that I didn't know everything,
mm,
which was,
okay.
and doing that in front of people. So it really was very liberating, though, because one of the things I noticed when I first came out of this depression and really got into who I was and knowing my voice, I didn't seek the validation of other people. So I
Mm,
was in a position to where when I listened to people, I didn't feel like I had to judge them or, figure out if I need to tell them or fix them in something. You
okay.
know, I was able to just take people how they were and ask questions to dive deeper about issues that I felt could really impact my life and help me implement things that are going to help me be better. And that journey in itself, that whole thing of realizing you don't know everything and taking the judgment out,
Mm,
was a big deal because the conversations that I had were a lot more, um, I don't know, it was just like I just had a better connection with people.
okay.
There was no filter that, oh, this is a woman, so she's going to just automatically feel this way, or he's a
Mm,
man, or he's Caucasian, or she's Caucasian. I never had
mm,
any of that. People were just people. And I looked at each experience as, okay, what am I going to learn today? And so
okay.
we had that mindset of being a sponge,
Mm,
really empathize and hearing someone's story and what the similarities were,
oh, that's
if
wonderful.
that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
Hmm.
sense. I love I can see that image of being a sponge and just kind of soaking it in. So once you're able to, first of all, you have to recognize it sounds like that you need the help and you need the support. And then you go out and find it. I hear you saying kind of like-minded individuals. So I'm
Hmm.
thinking if, for some people that support comes at church, right? For other people that's not
Right,
in church. So counselors, coaches, support groups. There
right,
are places that we can find. And I think for me, at least, some of the challenge was, especially online, everybody looks so good.
right,
you know, everybody
right.
looks so perfect and their lives are so perfect, which makes it harder if you're struggling with something to be able to talk about it. And
Exactly. And I think for me, I was not focusing on what was on the outside.
mm,
Once you kind of get in tune with who you are, you're not looking at the things that other people look at.
mm,
So I tell my kids, listen with your eyes, right?
mm,
And your ears,
yes,
right?
yeah,
Because if you listen with your eyes, people will tell you anything. So they'll say,
mm,
hey, you know what? I'm just a great person, or I just love doing this. And then their walk is not in line with what they're saying.
that's correct. Yes.
So when you listen with your eyes, you're watching what they're doing to see if that's really the thing that's measuring up with what they're
Mm,
saying.
right.
And so as I really began to go on this journey, I would not assume anything about a person,
Mm,
but I would listen and ask those questions. So like if somebody said, um, yeah, I just feel like I'm like-minded. I made some bad choices and I had different triggers, and this is what I did, right? And then I probe, okay, so what's a routine for you?
mm,
Um, what are some of your non-negotiables? What are some of
mm,
your values that help you continue to
mm,
live like that? And if they can't answer those questions, I'm
mm,
polite and understanding, but it
yeah.
just lets me know that this person's saying something, but not living that.
Mm. Okay. I
So it's
hear
just
you.
kind of like that introspection to kind of know what kind of questions to ask
Right.
and go from there.
Well, I think it's helpful to even have the dialogue about what questions, what they should look like and sound like. And when you said listen
Hmm.
with your eyes and your ears, that's something that I've heard a lot and have used. And then I also say, listen with your heart, right? So you're also kind of evaluating in a way, not with judgment,
Hmm.
but do their values align with yours? And that's what you were saying as well.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool.
Hmm.
Very good.
And so, it's one of those things to where yeah, meet a lot of people. There's people that, I'm a Christian, but I have people that I do business with that are homosexuals. There's people that are lesbians,
Mm,
right? So I have got to that point to where I feel like I'm empowered enough with myself to know that everybody has the power for their own life.
mm,
It's not my place to tell them, hey, you know what? I don't really agree with that because that's me.
mm.
Okay. I made my choice. I put my line in the sand and I am in a heterosexual relationship. I have
Mhm.
children or whatever. So I don't need to go around repeating that
Yeah,
over and over or telling them because I've already made my choice. That's the only choice I'm responsible for. What
right.
they do is theirs. Now, if they come to me and they say, look, I'm struggling with this or whatever, but I just accept them how they are because that doesn't matter. There's still
Mhm,
things about living your life that don't really matter about somebody's orientation. Or there's people that outwardly look like they're normal, so we would say, right?
mhm.
And they're living this alter ego
Yeah.
where, at home they're one way and out in public they're another way. So
Mhm.
I'm very conscious about the fact that even something like that is that we have to understand nothing is always face value.
That's right.
Okay.
Right.
I don't care. People are just, and it's a thing to where people have to trust you enough to be uh, able and be comfortable enough to remove that mask
Mhm.
without fearing that judgment that they feel may or may not occur.
Right. Exactly.
Mhm.
So I know I related when you talked about being functionally depressed because I've been there myself, right? And so
Mhm.
you're able to kind of do the mechanics sometimes of what you need to do during the day, but at the same time, very, very deeply depressed on the inside. But most people might not see it because you can even have a smile on your face as
Right.
you're going through the day to day. So talk to me about that journey when you knew you needed to get some extra support and
Mhm.
and how you walked through that piece.
Well, my situation, all three of these have been the same in a sense to where I was burning the candle at both ends.
Mm,
So I wasn't getting a lot of rest. I wasn't getting much sleep. I just was like checklist type person.
mm,
This
mm,
child has got this going on, that,
yeah,
I have a calendar, writing it all down. And it was really where my husband saw a lot more of the signs, or my kids might have seen it. Um, at home. And so each of my occasions when I was hospitalized, it was him taking me to get the intervention.
okay.
Because for me, it was like I was just at wit's end doing all these things and thinking that I was saying things that made sense. And everybody else around me is like, that's not sounding right.
Right,
So
okay.
I am really blessed in the sense that that's what happened. But I think for people, there are certain things that are triggers like ahead of time that, for me, I just had this mindset that because we did have a lot of children, my husband was the only one who worked. I was pretty much the stay home, deal with the kids person
Mhm,
because he was the breadwinner.
okay.
So, if I needed anything, it was like, well, if he's at work, it's just up to me to do it. I didn't really have a support system. So I didn't really have people checking in with me and saying, is everything okay? My kids were very self motivated, academically charged in terms of knowing what is required for them with school. So there were no warning signs with them. We had a routine for how they get dressed and pack their lunches. So there was a lot of things that are going on like normal. And there's no signs where people would be like, okay, what's going on here? You know what I mean? Because
Okay.
everything is still running like a
Right.
well-oiled machine,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Okay.
And but for myself, it was like, how often a day am I smiling? you know um how often do I feel like I'm talking positively to myself? you
Mm,
know do I even have a schedule? See, I've never really had a schedule. People are like, how could that not be, right? Because if my husband would call me with an emergency, I'm stopping that.
you
My
go off
kids
on.
forget their
Yeah.
lunch, I'm running up to the school. If the school calls me, hey, can we have some volunteers for this? Then I'm running and doing that.
Yes.
So to even try to have a daily routine, it was not non-existent.
Mm,
So I didn't really get each day feeling like I accomplished anything. It was just
okay.
like, today I survived, and it kept being this. There was nothing really to look forward to or anything like that. So sometimes I think those are the signs. How are you about getting dressed in the morning? Are you excited? Are your clothes laid out the night before? If they're not, you're just throwing on some sweats and coming back and laying down, or not putting on makeup. I don't wear much makeup, but I'm just saying, if there's things that you're not looking forward to, that's a sign something's not right.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Mhm.
So if you were in that situation and somebody's feeling, I'm going to say overwhelmed, or
Mhm.
things I'm not looking forward to, or just like I recently had pneumonia, and so
Mhm.
I, on a day-to-day basis, I was struggling to breathe. And so what
Wow.
I'm feeling is like some of the families that I've run into and been in myself, it's like you have a hard time coming up for air. You struggle
Right.
to breathe. So when you're in that place, or before you get to that place, what are some of the things that you would recommend or suggest? And I'm thinking self-care, just like how do you take time out? How do you take care of yourself?
Yeah, I think people that are depressed, they don't even know what self care is. That's like, what is that? Okay, you can go get your nails done, and that is not self care,
Mm,
right? It is just not, because one, you don't really even see yourself. I wasn't looking at myself in the mirror.
mm,
I wasn't motivated about getting up. So the first thing is to really um you have to surround yourself with a different way of thinking,
mm,
because I explain it to one of my daughters, still is battling with depression. But let's say if you are listening to a bad record that's on repeat, right?
yes.
How are you going to change the record if you're just the only one there?
Mm,
Right? First of all, you don't
good
even
point.
know the record's bad. That's first.
Good point.
And
Yeah.
it's been playing and playing. Nobody else is around. You're an island. You're isolating yourself. You're not telling
Mhm,
everybody about this record you're hearing. You just keep on hearing it, and everybody else doesn't know what you're listening to because
mm,
you're not engaging. So it's like, you have to, you don't even know it's bad. Then once you begin to feel like, man, begin to see other people outside of yourself, you see that there's just like a big it's like a big bridge that you don't know how you're going to get over on the other side,
mm.
right? So I think the first thing is really finding out what would really make you smile. Something as simple as that.
Okay. All right.
You have to go really small, because
Mm,
the journey is so great sometimes. Like I said, if you're listening to this bad record, you're not, and it's just like kids who may do bad things and then they say, you know what, I'm gonna be good. Okay, well, how are you gonna do that? Because all
yeah.
you know is bad. I'm
That,
just using that as example. I
right.
don't agree
Right.
with that, but who am I to judge? But my point is, if you've been doing something for so
Oh,
long just
no,
to
but
make up
true.
your mind, oh,
Yes.
I'm just gonna do this, it just is not happening.
Right.
Okay. Especially if you're doing it by yourself. If that was the
Mhm,
case, why wouldn't you be doing it now?
right.
Why are you doing this for so long if you don't like where you're at?
True.
So I think it's that self-awareness that, you know what, I don't really like this place. I want to do something different. And once you begin to get to that point, then it's the little things, you know. For me, it was just making up my bed every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's where I had to start. So
Start
I
from
had
a
to make
simple
up my
thing.
bed, something small, and, you know, I can begin to kind of change my surroundings. You know, then it's like, you know, laying my clothes out the
Mm,
night before. Because, you know, just thinking that I have to look forward to another day. There were times where I just wasn't looking forward to that. I
yes.
was just going to throw on whatever, put a hat on, drop the kids off, come back, you know what I mean? And play this game if somebody called me, you know what I mean?
Yes,
And
I do.
just go on.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think it's just not knowing who you are and really being able to look at yourself in the mirror and say, I really don't want this anymore. Because I could say it's bad, you could say it's bad, but we're not going to change anything for somebody else until they feel it's bad and bad enough where they don't want to continue in that
Right.
anymore.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really helpful. Wow.
Mhm.
And I love the idea of taking the small steps because I think that what we do instinctively is try to look at the whole pie and want to take these large steps. And then when we stumble, it just kind of throws us backwards even more.
Right.
Right? So it's the little, simple, immediate steps that we can take and get some natural wins or feel something good from that, and then move on to the next one. I think
Absolutely.
that was really, really helpful, really
Yeah.
grateful.
And, you know, for another thing, it's like, you know, for me, I had back to being in the same environment.
Mm,
So if I'm taking these big steps, which I don't really know how to manage, and then I realize that they're looking at me, so then they'll ask me something. And then it's just like, it's a recipe for disaster
mm,
because I don't have a maintenance plan. I don't know what I'm doing. I haven't even figured that out. And then I'm trying to connect this whole dynamic of still being with the same people that see me the
yes.
same way that I used to be.
Yeah.
So they're making remarks, they're triggering or whatever. So if you're not confident about the steps you're taking,
Mm,
you know, then that's just going to pull you back to that reality. And, you know, I took small enough steps to where I was able to realize, you know what, it's my behavior that's going to set the tone. It's my example that's eventually going to make an impression.
that's right.
But it has to be something that I can maintain. See, that's another thing. We want to get over here to this new person, but
Yes.
then we not maintaining it. So it's like,
Right.
oh yeah, you can look good for a couple weeks, but for me, I realized that it had to be a lifestyle change because
Mm,
in my case, I was not planning on going back to the hospital for a fourth time.
mm.
So this had to be my lifestyle. This had to be something that was permanent for me.
Wow. So, what other changes have you made to help you have the lifestyle that you desire?
I think one is learning every
Mm,
day,
okay.
either through reading, meeting new people, um, just being outside, just observing nature, prayer. These are things that I did before, but I think I look at things as how can I learn from this?
Mm,
That's one of the questions I ask more so than just observing just like a surface of observation.
mm,
You know, when I go through experiences, it's like, okay, so what am I supposed to learn from this? I kind of ask those questions ahead of time. And things just don't really bother me like they used to. So, right before the holidays, my mom is one of 12, and one of her siblings passed away.
mm.
And so it was the first one of the 12. So we had to go to the funeral. It was like the weekend of her birthday. And the family has, you know, they are close, but they are kind of estranged on
Mm,
some areas, you know. And it was just a revelation for me that, you know what, God already tells us that we're going to die.
right.
So it's a non negotiable.
Mm,
The problem that we have is letting go
yes. Yeah.
and accepting that. right? So if we just accept the fact, even something like a funeral, and I'm not saying that it's going to be happy,
Mm.
but this was the first time that I went to a funeral and I wasn't going there like with grief as the lead in.
Mm.
I went there, it's like, you know what? This is a celebration. I get to see my aunts and uncles that I haven't seen in years. What are we going to do from this meeting that we're having that's going to propel us forward as a family? What things are we going to implement? Are we going to be like, yeah, we don't need to meet except for, funerals and stuff like this, but not do anything about it?
Mm. Right. Yeah.
So I posed that question. I spoke at the funeral and I asked him, I said, look, this is an opportunity. She's fine. Okay. She
Mhm.
doesn't have to worry about none of the stuff we have to worry about. But what are we going to do differently as a result of this happening to our family and all of us being here to witness this at the
Mm.
same time? And we have been a lot, I wouldn't say it's overnight, but we now participate a lot more on Facebook with some of the posts that we make. We call each other, we have
Okay.
group chat. So it's like that's the thing that a legacy should be.
Mm.
How are you going to
Absolutely.
take that torch and pass it and move it forward? Instead of just doing what everybody else does. Oh yeah, it was the funeral, it was sad.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do from that? You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
So I feel as though I see in you there's been a significant kind of a shift that's happened
Mhm,
over time, but it's a real shift in your perspective, right? It's kind of the
mhm,
lens that you see the world through has
mhm,
been changing. And as you're asking these deeper and deeper questions, that's what it continues to shift your perspective as you've grown and
mhm.
learn as you say.
Yes. So I had a strategy that I really created on my own.
Mm.
It's the Fresh Start, and so Fresh is an acronym for the philosophy that I've come up with that kind of
Okay.
helped me. So, and I use that one because for me, I always had to adjust to change.
Mm.
So my husband and I had 13 children together, and then two of them are my stepchildren. But my body was always changing.
Mm.
With every pregnancy, they're all like 18 to 20 months apart. So that newness with stomach getting big, stomach going down, that whole
Yeah.
process I was used to. Then changes with my kids, when they start walking, they start talking, they
Mm.
feed themselves. It was always constant change. So that mindset of something being a fresh start, that was familiar with me. Or we would move to a bigger place because we had more kids, or had to get a bigger vehicle. I mean, change was
Mm.
always kind of constant, but it was not always good change in
Mm.
terms of my mindset. So I
Okay.
recognized that for me, a fresh start was an acronym that would make sense for me.
Mm.
So the first letter is F, and that's using fear as fuel. So
Mm.
everybody is fearful.
Yes,
The
right.
thing about it that's crazy about fear is that, just historically, we have a fight or flight mentality.
Yes.
So we have this mentality about stuff that doesn't make sense,
Mm.
right? And so it goes unchecked and we just let it paralyze us.
Mm.
So you want to start a new job and it's like your body really responds like it's, fight or flight, which
That's
is
right.
crazy,
Yep.
right? And so it's not until we begin to say, you know what, this is okay. We breathe, we do whatever to calm ourselves down.
Mm.
But this is a process that a lot of us go through, but we just allow that process to stop us and paralyze us from moving forward.
Exactly.
So when you have that fear, I say use it as fuel because, do your research. You know, if you want to start a new job and get into a new industry, okay, the smart thing to realize is that you don't know what you got to get into.
That's right.
You don't know anything about it, and that's okay. So do your research about it.
Mm.
you know, you don't just stop in your tracks and not want to do something because you don't know. We just know we have to learn and recognize that as we get better with our experiences, we're going to feel more comfortable.
Right.
So, you know, doing your research. The next letter is reframe. This is one that is still to me, I think one of the most important ones, because when we decide we want to do something new, okay, we don't want our past to interfere with it. So for some of us, we try to go and package that past in a closet.
Yes.
And leave it there and think, I'm just going to think positive. I'm starting
forward.
a new life.
Yep.
But that thing is still in the closet.
That's correct.
Right? So if you reframe, you don't have to have that on your back about, oh, my past is going to catch up to me, so to speak. You take that path and you think, what about this is good and what's not good? The good stuff I'm going to take with me, and I'm going to empower myself and tell my story in a way that I want to tell it. Right?
Okay.
And so for me, you know, I was like, the depression was in the closet. And then when I said, you know what, I'm through being a victim of this. What about this past is good, you know, that I could use to move forward? You know, I reframed it. I need to have healthy boundaries. I need to not blame people. I need to take accountability for my own actions.
Wow.
I was the common denominator in these 3 hospitalizations. You know what I'm saying? You know, I need to say no. I need to stop looking at people to give me stuff that I need to give myself. Right?
Yeah.
So I had to reframe. So I came from a place of strength rather than a place of weakness, feeling like I'm running from my past.
Okay.
Right? Because everybody has a past. Everybody has a story. But the blessing is, once you kind of know who you are, you get to tell your story any way you want to. And then another thing that's kind of a bonus with that is that, and I tell this to my clients, that, you know, part of your past you're carrying that doesn't belong to you. So let's say somebody was abused, for example, as a kid. They had no control in those situations. And a lot of times it was physically, mentally, and emotionally, they had no control. So you take a person who maybe they were abused age 7 to 10. Okay, you're a child. You're looking to an adult to take care of you, provide for you. You don't really do anything for yourself, right? So you are taking this baggage about this abuse as if it was something you could have done about it.
Yeah.
So once you realize that it was out of your control, you really were a victim. You were victimized and there was nothing you could do. It doesn't mean that you were a bad person. It was somebody took advantage of your innocence and you were victimized. That is so liberating for people because they go around with this on them as if they could have done something. You know, they might think, if I had only screamed louder or whatever, and it was unrealistic. So you're going around with this pain from your past, on top of it being a bad situation. It's even worse because you were putting yourself down thinking that you didn't do something to really make it possible for yourself to live a better life.
Wow. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, that's
So
so
once
true.
you
Yeah.
reframe that and say, I was 7, okay? This person took advantage of me. You can really forgive. You right? And you can forgive yourself because it's like, there really wasn't nothing I could do. Go around and, you know, and I tell people, if you were 7, go out on the playground and see how much power a 7th grader has for somebody that's 2 or 3 times their size.
Yes.
And if they're innocent enough to not know, you know, in some cases, some people are so sick to think that it's a form of manipulation that they use to make them think that it's okay. I mean, it's all kind of things.
Yes.
But it's a back to the innocence thing, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, so then the next letter is E, which is envision your success, achievement, or goals. So for a lot of people who may be, sorry about that, I put this on do not disturb. I don't understand it. Some things just come through. But anyway, so when you're envisioning your success, you know, I had to start out doing vision boards. So I had to have pictures of things that of what I wanted because
Mm,
it was hard to dream outside of my situation. So I had to have visuals. Now I'm to the point where I can just have words, but it's a process. People have to be wherever they are. So if
mm,
it's better for you to have a visual, you want a nice family, that family is different than what you have right now, but that's
mm.
what you're striving for. Put that nice family on there. Whatever it's going to take for you to begin to recreate what it is that you're looking at,
That's true. Yes.
in spite of what is right in front of you.
Mm,
The next one is S, which is support system or tribe. So this is finding people that are like-minded, organically, asking the right questions. I tell people all the time that if I was to go to the store and tell somebody I just met, yeah, I'm a millionaire, they would believe me,
mm.
right? And so people believe whatever you tell them. And, so initially they'll believe it. Then they'll start probing and saying, well, is she a millionaire?
Right.
Things will start lining up. But my point is, whatever you tell people, that 9 times out of 10, they're going to believe it.
Mm,
So if you're going to sit over here and say you're defeated and whatever, people
mm,
don't believe that. But if you are just, I'm saying, oh yeah, I'm America's supermom and I do this, they'll be like, what? They right on with me. You know what I mean?
yes.
They'll get off the phone. Girl, she's got 15 kids. She's doing this, doing that.
Yes.
People believe what you say.
Mm.
So get around people that believe you where you're at and they see where you're going. Those are the people you need to be connecting with,
Wow. Yes.
and let your family come along whenever they are comfortable enough,
Mm.
right? The next letter is H, which is healing, and that's going to be a constant process.
Yes.
You're always going to be healing. If it's not me, then it's going to be my husband or my kids, because we all were displaced to some extent.
Mm.
For a while, I resented my husband. It was like, look, that was all that came out of my mouth. I can't believe you took me there. I can't believe this,
Mm.
this,
Yes.
this,
Yes.
So, you got to be conscious of the fact that it's going to be not an overnight thing,
Mm.
and even in that healing process, it could be something that could be a trigger. You could be going along fine, listen to a song or a situation, and then boom, you feel like, hey, I remember this happened, and you
Yes.
might go back and act crazy.
Mhm.
But as long as you're in, you won't stay there.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? To
Or the
be like,
time gets
hey,
shorter and shorter that you're there. Right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you set a timer or whatever, and you're like, look, we ain't going there all day or all week or whatever. And so I try to do the same thing with my kids. Hey, I know you're upset. We'll give you your space, or I know you're upset, but this is disrespectful. Okay. This is not a reason for you to do whatever because of how you're feeling. You know what I mean? So you got to check people. They'll check you, but it's a constant process.
Wow. I
Mhm.
love your fresh start framework. That's
Thank you.
really powerful. You got to come back again so we can go over maybe bit by bit.
Yes,
Share the
absolutely.
framework a
Love
little bit by bit over time. I think that would be powerful.
it. Yes.
But
Mhm.
I appreciate your time so much. I just looked over at the clock. I can't believe the time is up already. You've
I
done,
know.
um, I just find you to be a remarkably inspiring person.
Well, thank
And
you.
I just know that there are going to be other families who see this, and in their day to day, they're thinking, oh, I can't go one more step, or it's
Mhm.
falling apart, or I just don't feel good in this moment. And having the opportunity to be able to look at somebody like you in your situation, even just raising the 15 kids by itself is enough to help people to see, yeah, you can make it one step at a time, right? But
Absolutely.
just your story in itself, and then the way that you are handling yourself, I just appreciate it. I appreciate you, and I hope you come back again. Let's do this again. I
Absolutely, I
love
will.
playing with you
I'd
today.
love to.
All
I'd
right.
love to.
Okay.
Yep. All
Excellent.
right.
So again, thank you for your time today.
You are welcome.
All right,
And
and we'll get
anything
together
I
again.
can do in the future, you just let me know.
Absolutely, we'll get together again. Thank you, darling.
All right.
Have a good day.
All right, you too.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.